In this video, we'll look at a 3-step hyper-practical process for working with anxiety using mindfulness, drawing from ancient Buddhist wisdom and the best mindfulness teachers. I'm actually really excited to share with you these techniques that I'm about to uncover because I've used these time and time again in my life to pull myself out of the grips of otherwise overwhelming anxiety. If you're an adept meditator or a beginner meditator, you'll nonetheless be able to apply this wisdom to your life, so stick around for the entire video. I'm sure you'll find incredible value here. Hey everyone, welcome to the first video of what I'm dubbing Woke Wednesday, where I'm sharing wisdom from the best meditation teachers that you can apply directly to your life. My name's Sam Roth. I've been practicing mindfulness for 2 years with a 2-hour daily committed practice. I've sat 2 10-day silent meditation retreats, and it's my commitment to help you better understand the practice. With that in mind, today we're going to look at what the third noble truth is, some theoretical knowledge around the nature of suffering, and then wrap up with some incredible mindfulness wisdom of how we can apply this understanding to our lives today to overcome anxiety, with plenty of examples to understand this process. Now, you could skip to the end of this video and just glaze over all the theoretical backing, but I really encourage you to stick around for the entirety of the video if you're serious about actually applying this to your life. Now, I actually originally intended this video to be on the 4 Noble Truths of Buddhism, but as I was writing it, I realized that there was just way too much content and it would have been overwhelming and would have desaturated the value. So I've chosen to pick what, in my opinion, is one of the most important, which is the third noble truth, not discounting the others. But keep in mind that you don't need to have a full overarching understanding of the 4 noble truths to get value out of this video. With that out of the way, let's get the bloody hell into it. So what is the third noble truth? The third noble truth basically tells us in Buddhist wisdom that if we want to come to the end of dukkha, which is translated as either suffering, or a better translation is unsatisfactoriness by Bhikkhu Bodhi, we have to let go of craving. Craving is the translation of the Pali word tanha, but is better understood in my opinion as thirsting. It's that thirsting sensation we have for things like sex, or like for food, or to drink water. So if you can picture what that's like when you're really thirsty, it's that gripping, pulling sensation to want to get the thing done. Now, this is also craving for not feeling an unpleasant state of mind. So say we're feeling social anxiety, we're craving for that to not be there, so that causes suffering. But it's also really subtle. So it's even as fine as postural movements when you're sitting. So the unpleasantness and craving for alleviation of the pain in our back when we're sitting down for too long. So the third noble truth basically states if we can let go of this craving, the craving for a better, more pleasant mental state, then we can be free from suffering. Makes sense. Now, it's as simple as that, but to actually put it into practice on an experiential level is incredibly difficult. And this is what makes Buddhist monks dedicate their entire lives to practicing in monasteries, right? This is no walk in the park to let go of craving, especially when it's this primitive and this deeply ingrained into our psyche and neural pathways. Okay, so here we're presented with a cool theory, right? If you just let go of craving, it's all going to be good, it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows, and you're not going to feel anxiety anymore, okay? This sounds really theoretical, but slap in the face, if you can apply this to your life, which you can, and I'm going to show you how, you can reap profound benefit for overcoming anxiety in your life. And the truth of the matter is, speaking from my own experience, we can do this at any moment, at any time, but we just need the right tools to do it. And this is what makes this an incredibly liberating practice. Now, understand that I said it's a practice. This is, although the 4 noble truths may sound theoretical, this is indeed a practice that we're doing in our lives. So what can we do now that we understand that letting go of this craving is the freedom that we're looking for from suffering, from social anxiety, from anxiety in general? Well, let's consult the gods of teaching mindfulness to a Western secular audience, Joseph Goldstein and John Yates. Okay, first we need to understand something as advocated by these teachers, something very critical about the nature of suffering. And don't worry, we will get to the practical aspect in a second, but I promise you this is very important to understand. So we first have to understand that even a fully enlightened person, known as an arhat in Buddhist wisdom, even a fully enlightened person still feels inherent suffering tied to various phenomena. So if you cut your finger, there's still going to be suffering tied to it. In fact, the Buddha himself did feel the unpleasantness of sensations. So there is a sutta that dictates how the Buddha was complaining about having a sore back, right? So he didn't suffer in the way that we suffered, but he nonetheless still felt the unsatisfactoriness of sensation. So this is a critical point to make, right? So there still is unsatisfactoriness to unpleasant sensation. However, there's an incredibly liberating truth that we come to realize when we practice mindfulness with any degree of competency, and that is that suffering is entirely optional. Most of our suffering, in fact, is mental. So we're often anxious about being anxious, and that's where the root of most of our suffering comes from, and that continues to spiral upwards. Now, to understand this relationship that suffering is optional, there's an incredible equation which sounds quite theoretical admittedly, but I encourage you to try and apply something that's happened in your life to this equation. Now, the equation is suffering equals pain times resistance. Now, the key factor is resistance here. So if you take a moment where you are anxious about being anxious, right? That anxious about being anxious is because you had a lot of resistance. But imagine if you were to let go of the anxiousness of being anxious. There wouldn't be nearly as much suffering, and in fact, the suffering would pass away very quickly. And what's feeding it and what's keeping it remaining in you is your resistance to what is arising. Now, I encourage you to pause the video right now and do a bullshit test. So actually apply something from your life to this equation and see if it rings true. I will probably fill you in on a little secret. It is true, but it's helpful to experientially investigate this for yourself so you know that you're not just hearing it, you're actually applying it to your life. So let's quickly rehash before we get into the practical stuff. So we understand that we can be free from suffering if we let go of craving. We also understand that there is inherent suffering attached to the nature of phenomena. So if we cut our finger, there's suffering there. And we also most importantly understand that this is in fact a practice. This isn't just some blasé Buddhist wisdom. This is a practice that we can do at any moment in our life. Okay, theoretical class is dismissed. Let's now take a look at some practical wisdom that I've learned over meditating for 2 years with a committed practice from the best teachers that we can apply directly to our life. Let's get into it. So like I said in the title, this is going to be a 3-step process, but we're going to have to work through this systematically, and I'll summarize it all at the end. So one of the most powerful things that I've learned from Joseph Goldstein and John Yates is that first, when we feel suffering, so say we're walking down the street, we see someone that we don't like and it causes social anxiety, right? We should be treating this as an opportunity rather than an affliction. So first what we do, we feel the suffering and then we note the suffering. So okay, anxiety is arising. So right here and now is an opportunity for me to strengthen my mindfulness practice and work with this feeling of anxiety that's coming up. Now, once we have noted the anxiety, here's where the cool magic comes into place. So first we look at, okay, whenever there is suffering present, there is craving. So look for the underlying craving beneath that anxiety. For example, okay, I feel anxious. I see this person. Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to resist this anxiousness. There's the craving. Look for that. And if you can find that craving, let go of it. It's as simple as that. Just let go of the craving. Now you might ask, okay, Sam, what the hell? That sounds cool. That's all theoretical, but how can you actually let go of this craving? What does that even look like to begin with? Okay, bear with me here. I'm going to tell you how. So there's an incredible analogy that Joseph Goldstein uses here, and I've found it to be very, very useful to sort of having that perspective shift necessary to pull back and observe the craving. So Joseph Goldstein makes the analogy that imagine it's like you're a scuba diver sitting on the side of a boat. You know how scuba divers sit on the side of the boat? I'll put up some B-roll. And what they do is they fall back into the water. And what this does is if you can sort of apply that perspective shift to your life, it's like here you are, you're feeling anxiety, but you're pulling back and you're able to objectify it and watch it arise and pass. So you're changing your perspective to see the anxiety rather than being anxious. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea of what this pulling back is and observing the sensation. Now, if that doesn't work for you, try this as well. There's also another incredible example Joseph gives, where it's like you're listening to music. So imagine you're listening to your favorite tune right now. So you're sitting back into your chair and you're listening to the music. Now, what this does is it sort of takes you out of your experiential, like your contracted sense of self, and it brings you into a different perspective shift. Now, if you can sort of sit there right now and try this, apply this perspective shift. Imagine instead of listening to music, you're listening to the sensations arising in your body, and that helps to objectify it, and that's the perspective shift that I'm talking about. So you can try playing around with these a little bit and see if that causes a perspective shift that allows you to objectify the sensation that you're feeling. In this case, anxiety. Okay, and then you might ask, what then? I've objectified the sensation, I'm feeling this anxiety, what do I do now? Now I want to just re-emphasize something here. Remember that there is inherent suffering tied to phenomena. So even if you're able to objectify it, there still is an unpleasant sensation there that is afflicting us, okay? But what we're doing here is we're letting go of the resistance, if you can remember that equation. So instead of we're jumping onto a bus of, say, social anxiety, and then we're traveling down for 2 hours, and then we get off the bus and we're like, holy crap, what just happened? We're actually being able to pull back and see what's going on and then make decisions appropriately from there. So this is incredibly powerful. Now, what I want to do now is provide 2 incredible examples of things I've learned on what we can do to alleviate that existing suffering that's still there. Some perspective shifts that we can have that I've learned from Joseph Goldstein and John Yates to apply directly to our life. So let's get into it now. Joseph does an incredible job at explaining how our experience is ungovernable. So from the moment that we're born, we're influenced by external factors. Things like doctors acting on us, parents having influence on us. Who we are today is the product of the net accumulation of all of the things that have happened to us. So therefore our reactions are also the product of external things happening to us. They're ungovernable. So if we're feeling anxious, everything that's accumulated to who we are today is the result of that. It's not like we're saying, oh yes, I want to feel anxiety in my lower abdomen right now, because that's just ridiculous. Of course, we're not controlling that. We're completely out of control of what arises. So a very useful perspective shift is once we've objectified the sensation, right, we've pulled back, we can say, oh, okay, this is ungovernable. This is not me that's doing this. This is just the product of my external environment having an effect on me and afflicting me in this way. So it depersonalizes the sensation and makes us not think that we're anxious people. And the second thing that we can do is also contemplate the impermanence of the sensation. So every moment sensations are arising and passing away. This is one of the most 101 Buddhist understandings, but deeply difficult to integrate into our practice. So I find when I'm able to objectify a sensation, and you can play around with this for yourself, but when I objectify the sensation, having a more macro understanding of change is very useful here. So what I like to do is imagine on a more macro level, did I have some sort of big melodrama yesterday? Was I anxious yesterday? Where is it now? See, these mental states arise and they pass, and the exact same thing is going to happen with the mental state that you're feeling in the heat of the moment. So having this perspective shift is very liberating because we know that eventually it's going to pass and it's just the product of external conditions influencing us. So what I'm going to do now is wrap it up in a nice little bundle that you can apply directly to your life. So let's use the example. Imagine you're in the workplace and your boss yells at you. You feel general anxiety. Your whole body you've gone into a bit of a fight or flight response. You're feeling anxiety in your solar plexus region or just all through your torso, wherever it arises. Here's what you do. First, alarm bells should be going off. Okay, there is suffering present in my body. Note the experience. This is very important to begin objectifying it. Okay, so once you've then objectified the sensation, you're then going to try and look for the craving. Where is the craving in this anxiety? Oh yes, I see that I'm trying to resist this. I don't want to be feeling this sensation. Okay, right there, let go of it, okay? And what does this look like? Recall the scuba diver analogy as well as the listening analogy. That can help to let go of that resistance that we're otherwise feeling. Okay, and then what you can do once you've objectified is you can appreciate the ungovernableness of this sensation. So this is the product of external factors influencing me. This is not me that's trying to feel anxious. I'm not consciously saying, oh yes, I want to feel anxiety because my boss is yelling at me. No, this is just occurring from my external conditioning. And then also you can apply the appreciation of impermanence as well. That this emotion will arise and it's going to pass away just as much. Okay, so I want to provide 2 very critical disclaimers here before we end the video, and these are very important, so listen closely here. Now, the first disclaimer is that we need to make sure that we're not using an in order to mind. This is what Joseph Goldstein has dubbed the in order to mind, where we feel a sensation, we feel a negative mind state like anxiety, and we objectify it. We do all the steps I've outlined up until this point. But then what we do is we're trying to over effort and we're trying to get rid of this sensation. So like, oh yes, I don't want to feel anxiety, I don't want to feel anxiety. And then eventually it might pass. But you see, what we've done in this instance is we have solidified that this is an aversive mind state and we don't want to be feeling this, okay? So the idea is to let go, just watch it with wisdom, so applying that understanding of ungovernableness and impermanence to what we're feeling, and just let go and let it run its course. Now, you're not resisting. It's okay that the anxiety is there. In fact, it's quite a natural sensation. And lastly, I just want to add a bit of clarity here. You may be asking the question, how the hell could I be doing this all the time in my life? These are these 3 steps. How could I act them out really in practice? And I totally get that. Now, what I want to say to that is that this is a practice. And again, this is why Buddhist monks dedicate their whole lives. So what can we do to do this as a practice more readily? Well, the first thing we can do, recommended by John Yates, is to just keep applying mindfulness to smaller aspects and facets of suffering in our life. My experience, what I've found is when I'm able to let go of the smaller things, so when I'm driving in traffic and I can let go of anger using these similar steps, that permeates outward into my life, where I can then apply it to where I need it most, in the most heated situations, when I'm feeling really socially anxious or anxious in general. Look guys, this really is possible. Don't just take my word for it, try it out for yourself. And what I can assure you is that all of the mindfulness teachers and all of the Buddhist wisdom indicates that this is in fact possible. And I would not be sharing this video with you if I didn't have confidence that it worked, because I definitely have done this in my life time and time again, and I've found tremendous benefit, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel to overcome suffering. Okay, thank you so much for watching guys. If you found value in this video today, definitely leave a like. It helps me out a lot as I'm a new channel, and also subscribe if you want more videos like this. If you found value as well, leave a comment. Let me know what technique you're going to be using, and if there's something that you learned, let me know. And also, if you have something to share, if there's something that you have found to be useful in your practice of letting go of anxiety, leave a comment below. I would be happy and interested to know for myself, and I'm sure other people would as well. Okay, thank you so much for listening guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next Woke Wednesday video. Bye now.